My chosen designer from the What Was Good Design 1944 to 1956 exhibition at the Museum of Modern Art is Earl Tupper. Earl Tupper was born on July 28, 1907, in Berlin, New Hampshire in the US, and he was the only child of Ernest and Lulu Tupper. His father, Ernest Tupper, ran the family farm and greenhouse. His mother, Lulu Tupper, took in laundry to wash for neighbors and ran a boarding home. Earl's father was a person who loved to build and tinker, and created several labor-saving gadgets. He was later granted a patent for a device that facilitated in cleaning of a chicken. Earl Tupper was energetic as a young boy, interested in business and in making money. He discovered he could sell a lot more of the family's farm's produce if he went door to door rather than just selling it at the farmer's market. By age 10, Earl learned that bringing the product to the customer was lucrative as well as enjoyable. He would reinvent this method years later in the form of the Tupperware party. In 1925, Tupper graduated from high school in New Hampshire at the age of 17. After graduation, he continued to work at the family business until he was 19. And that somehow, as a businessman, he would make $1 million by the age of 30. Tupper's early employment also included working as a mailroom clerk and as part of a railroad labor crew. In his spare time, Tupper took a course to learn tree surgery, so he could start his own business tending to trees and landscaping. In 1931, at the age of 24, Earl married Marie Whitcomb. He and his wife later had 5 children. Although he started his landscaping business during the Great Depression, it was a modestly fruitful venture. His tree doctor's company stayed open for 6 years during this time. Tupper also kept himself busy by conducting various experiments and writing a series of scientific papers that would describe his vast interests and numerous ideas for inventions. By the age of 30, he was forced into bankruptcy instead of making the millions that he had dreamed of. In 1936, after the bankruptcy, Earl met Bernard Dole, an inventor working at Plastics Manufacturing Division of DuPont Corporation in Leominster, Massachusetts. Earl became captivated with the possibilities of plastic and went to work for the plastics plant, where he later said, according to the records of the National Museum of American History, it was DuPont that my education really began. It was also where Tupper conducted his earliest experiments with plastics prior to World War II. Earl Tupper worked for DuPont for just 1 year, and in 1938 he left the company to start the Earl S. Tupper Company, which advertised the design and engineering of industrial plastics. He wanted to experiment with plastic and asked DuPont for some polyethylene slag from oil refining process. It was black, hard, putrid, and unworkable in that form, odorless and non-toxic plastic. This improved plastic he called polytee. It became a revolutionary substance in the modern world, with the exceptions of sharp knife cuts and nearly boiling water. Most of the work during his company's first few years was performing subcontract work for DuPont. The company made much of its money producing molded parts for gas masks and signal lamps for the U.S. Navy during World War II. After the war, along with hundreds of other manufacturers, Tupper turned his attention to post-war consumer market. He made items such as plastic sandwich picks, unbreakable drinking tumblers, and plastic cigarette cases. These consumer products were often given away with other well-known products. The tumblers were offered with tech toothbrushes. Then Tupper focused on creating a line of plastic food storage containers that would hold food airtight in the refrigerator, sealing them against other odors and keeping the food fresher for longer, and was the first distributed in department stores and hardware stores. Unfortunately, because of the bad reputation of other plastics, sales were dismal in stores. Consumers knew little of Tupper's new plastic that needed to be demonstrated to the customer. Tupperware was also distributed through private household product companies, such as Stanley Home Products. Some of the products salespeople were selling fairly large quantities of Tupperware products, to the point where Tupper took notice, contacted them, and met with them to discuss possible new ways of marketing and to distribute Tupperware. A Stanley Home Products saleswoman, Brownie Wise, suggested that Tupper developed a marketing strategy modeled after the Stanley Home Products companies was to demonstrate the product in the home of the person who sponsored a Tupperware party, where all questions could be answered in a social atmosphere. Brownie Wise was a very innovative, ambitious, and smart saleswoman, and she went on to become the vice president of the company, Tupperware Home Parties, in 1951, where she remained vice president of the company for 9 years. Earl Tupper sold Tupperware to Rexall Corporation in 1958 for $16 million. In 1973, Earl Tupper retired at the age of 51 and moved to Costa Rica, where he eventually became a citizen. At the age of 76, Earl Tupper passed away from a heart attack in his adopted homeland in 1983 and survived by his 5 children and 14 grandchildren. Although Tupper built an enormously successful business, making numerous plastic products, he never liked the term plastic. He used to insist on calling what he made poly-tea because he quoted, "A lot of plastic that is made is junk." One of the products that Earl Tupper designed was chosen for the What Was Good Design 1944 to 1956 exhibition was his tumblers. The Museum of Modern Art focused on Dieter Rams' 10 principles of good design when choosing the items for this exhibition. Earl Tupper's tumblers fulfill many of these principles. Tupper's tumblers is a practical design because it can be used as a drinking vessel that can withhold daily use, and this is done through the material that he has used to create the tumblers, because it is not meant to be a statement piece of design. Tuppers have kept the tumblers sleek and minimalist. These tumblers are honest because Tupper intended them to be drinking vessels, and it does not manipulate the consumer to think otherwise. The tumblers are long-lasting because of the polyethylene plastic, which means when the item is dropped, it will resist cracking and breaking. Tupper's tumblers are understandable because it's self-explanatory of what the design is, and it doesn't make it confusing to customers. In my research for this task, I found that design does not have to be overcomplicated to get people's attention. As I can relate to this, I tend to put a lot of detail in my work when it might not be necessary, and it might just overtake the message that I am trying to portray. I have learnt that in art and design, and in the product design that Tupper has used, the purpose is as significant as the aesthetics, and I will take this into mind when designing my own works in the future.